Kia ora, good evening. Police have apologised after a computer glitch led to over 20,000 traffic infringement notices incorrectly issued to vehicle owners. A fault in the police information and communication technology system resulted in vehicle transaction data from the New Zealand Transport Agency between 22nd of October and 16th of December last year not being automatically updated on police systems. National Road Policing Manager Superintendent Carrie Griffiths says among those affected were people who had sold their vehicles during the 2-month period and were then incorrectly ticketed for offences incurred by the new owners. Mr Griffith says he can reassure anyone ticketed incorrectly won't need to pay the fine, and anyone who has paid in error will be completely refunded. The affected traffic notices consist mainly of speed camera infringements as well as police issued parking notices. Council issued parking notices are not affected. The number of students leaving school with an NCEA Level 2 qualification has seen a significant increase across the board in 2013, says Education Minister Hekia Parata. The provisional results for 2013 show 76.8% of students left school with at least NCEA Level 2. That's up 2.5% on the previous year. Between 2008 and 2013, there's been a 10.3% increase in the number of students leaving secondary school with NCEA Level 2. Ms Parata says the results are outstanding and reflect the great work being done in New Zealand schools to raise student achievement, particularly amongst Māori and Pacifica students, where there's been a lift of 4% and 7% respectively. The Clover root weevil has been in New Zealand for over a decade, and in the south, weevils are attacking clover and decimating some pastures. Known in rural circles as the evil weevil, it's now being conquered by an introduced biocontrol agent, a German wasp.
It's just the numbers have built up for the year. They've been down here for 4 years now, and the number of larvae built up in the soil, and they're attacking the roots and nodules of the white clover. The farmers have been telling us that it's just clover's almost absent from some of their young pastures in particular, and even their older pastures. They're really noticing the lack of clover there.
But there's been activity in the ground prior to that visual impact. How long are they in the ground and working before they see that that's had an impact on pastures?
Yeah, the larvae are the beasts causing the real damage, and they're present there from sort of late spring through the summer period.
But there is an action available to get rid of that?
Yeah, there is some hope for people. There is a parasitic wasp which attacks the clover root weevil.
And tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so we've released the wasps down in Southland since 2010 in conjunction with AgResearch, and we've had a number of releases since then as well, and doing more this season.
So what does the wasp actually do?
The wasp lays its egg into the clover root weevil, and that makes the weevil infertile, and then it also kills the weevil when the larvae hatches out of it.
And the timing of that process?
The wasp is laying eggs at the moment into adult weevils, and then they'll hatch out in spring as well.
What's the best way to try and counteract this?
It's getting the wasp established on your property and getting its numbers built up, so then that can reduce the weevil population.
So do you actually supply a wasp nest as such, or?
What people do is come along and harvest weevil infected by the wasp from earlier release sites.
And how many wasps are sort of necessary to keep on top of that?
It only takes one wasp to establish a population, but the more you can get of the weevils that have been infected with the wasp, the better. So we try and aim for releases of 100 weevils. We're aiming to run a couple of days where farmers can come along and harvest weevils from some of the earlier release sites back in 2010, and then take those releases back to their own property and get the wasp established there.
So that establishment of the wasp, how long does that generally take?
In terms of its building up to numbers where it impacts on the weevil, that can take 3 years.
Police have made further enhancements to tactical training that will see more of their officers trained in the use of tasers and firearms. In March last year, Police Headquarters announced improvements to the structure and delivery of its integrated tactical training, which covers the training all frontline staff receive. The enhanced training program takes effect from the 1st of July and introduces a 3-tiered tactical response structure with staff trained as Level 1, 2 or 3 responders. Level 1 responders represent staff who attend high-risk situations that may require access to tasers or firearms. Level 2 responders will receive pistol training. Level 3 responders will be available to respond to all other incidents that are lower risk. New students at the Southern Institute of Technology faced some lunchtime challenges today at the annual orientation week. A mussel patty cook-off was a popular choice with international students and Kiwis alike, and judges looked to be enjoying their job too. There was a battle of the sexes in tug of war, helped out by some willing Southland stags and an appreciative audience. A couch raid produced some winning prizes for 20 lucky people, while another 4 got down and dirty in the flower bowl as they searched for the elusive duck. And we'll have more action from O Week tomorrow night. Coming up after the break, a record number of visitors sleep over in Queenstown and short stay accommodation providers in the tourist town are given an amnesty. Welcome back. Queenstown has hit a new high with a record year for guest nights in 2013. Queenstown guest nights for the year in 2013 rose 8.4% to over 2,756,000. Each month in 2013 saw an increase on the prior year, resulting in the record high for the full 12 months. International guest nights were up 10.1% to 1.8 million, accounting for 65.6% of all guest nights. And 65.6% of all guest nights, while domestic visitors were up 5.2% to just under 950,000. The average length of stay also increased according to Statistics New Zealand's Commercial Accommodation Monitor. Meanwhile, Queenstown's Lakes District Council is offering an amnesty for property owners renting out houses and holiday homes in the town before following up on unregistered rental arrangements. Those who let property to short-term visitors have until the end of May to register their properties for visitor accommodation and gain necessary consents or cease using their property for that purpose. The council wants to ensure those who let property, including homestays, bed and breakfast and holiday homes, are paying appropriate rates, while the district plans include rules to manage the environmental effects. Rates could increase by around 25% when moving from residential to mixed use. The council will actively enforce regulations from the 1st of June. The Invercargill City Council last week called a public meeting to update Kennington residents about noise level concerns from the Niagara sawmilling plant. Invercargill City Council Environmental Planning Services Director Pamela Gear says Council has employed a noise consultant company to work alongside the consultant employed by the Niagara Sawmilling Company Limited to develop a noise management plan. Pamela Gear outlined the situation to Hunter Andrews earlier today.
In essence, we started early last year, and Council engaged Marshall Day Acoustics, who are a very well experienced noise consulting firm from Christchurch, and we asked them to come down and to measure noise to see whether or not the concerns of the residents were real. In essence, do the noise readings comply with the district plan? So what we're doing is assessing noise against the district plan provisions, and what that resolved was that during the daytime there was a slight exceedance, but the nighttime exceedance was quite significant. So we shared that with the company and the community, and since then we have been in discussions with the Niagara Sawmilling Company, and they have now agreed to engage their own noise engineers. They have put that in writing, and we've agreed a 3-step plan to get to a noise management plan.
So Niagara are very cooperative. It's
yes.
to be said.
Yes, Niagara are recognising they do have an issue. They want to address it because they want to be good neighbours with the people in Kennington, just like they want to have be able to have a good night's sleep, but recognising that there is an industry in their community.
And I guess that acknowledges that business has changed, isn't it? Because what was probably a 9-hour day operation is now 24. This is where the problem occurs, doesn't it?
Yes, it's the nighttime noise. That's the major issue that needs to be addressed.
And I guess it's early days, but you're hoping for a solution soon?
Yes, we're hoping for a solution. So mid-June we hope to have a noise management plan agreed with the company, and then it's a matter of putting that into play. That's not going to be a 2-minute fix, but that plan will have issues that need to be done, and there'll be a timetable against those so that we can mark progress and we can share with the community how that progress is happening. The plan will be able to say if this particular project is done, the noise should drop to this particular level, because it's all been computer modelled. So that should give everyone some reassurance that the investments that Niagara are putting into noise attenuation are actually going to get us the results we want.
And that expense will be entirely theirs?
That's right, yes. The community have asked why we haven't gone to the Environment Court. Our preference is to work with the company and to get a solution without the costs of having to go to the Environment Court, because if we do that, the court will impose conditions which might not be agreeable to the different parties.
Boating education is the key to keeping safe on the water, especially if alcohol is on board. There's currently no restriction on alcohol consumption on boats, and at this stage neither Maritime New Zealand, Coast Guard New Zealand or government are prepared to enforce drink driving laws on the water.
When you're operating a vessel, if you're intoxicated and under the influence of drugs or alcohol, then your actions are greatly impaired. So it's just like driving a vehicle, and it's just as dangerous if you're under the influence and you do put lives at risk.
Maritime New Zealand set the rules and regulations, and as a local body you have the option to add to that. Has there been any additions as to how you want people to behave on the water when there is alcohol involved?
We have added to it in various ways, but of course our hands are tied when it comes to alcohol and drugs on vessels. So one of the major areas that we have increased our bylaws is through the wearing of life jackets, and that we've seen a great response as a result of that.
But you have no option but to run with what's set on a national level?
Well, that's right, and our hands are tied. It really does have to come from the government on whether alcohol can be a factor on boats, and whether we can do anything about it in regards to enforcement.
If you were to come across a boat that had somebody driving it that was clearly intoxicated, who has the jurisdiction to do something about that?
Well, funny enough that no one has the jurisdiction when it comes to vessels on lakes or the seas or whatever. That normally if we see somebody that is consuming alcohol, then all we can do is just offer a boating education and advice and just say, look, it's not the done thing. And if we see people that are heavily intoxicated, we'll let the local authorities know ashore, and normally there's a greeting party waiting for them when they get back to the boat ramp.
But as far as Maritime New Zealand, they have no desire, I guess, to introduce any legislation around testing for alcohol levels or recreational drug use on boats?
No, not as far as I'm aware, but I'm sure they would like to see it certainly implemented by the government, but once again it comes down to the government to put something like that in place.
And that's all from us this Tuesday. Sport is along next after the weather. From the news team, good night.